Teie ettekandeid kuulates panin ma tähele, et seekord oli rohkem juttu sellest, millised on need ohvrite tüübid, millised on kurjategijate tüübid. Oli sellist klassifitseerimist, tüpologiseerimist. Ja ma tahan teie igaühe käest küsida, et mis teid kõige rohkem kõnetas nende tüüpide väljatoomise juures? Kas oli midagi, mis te tundsite oma enese praktilises töös ära, midagi, millele tahate vastu vaielda või midagi, mida tahate täiendada? Või järsku on mõni selline tüpoloogia, mida te oma ettekandes välja ei toonud, aga tahaksite meiega jagada? Ja esimene küsimus läheb siis ka esimesele vastajale Elisabethile, kas nad jõudsid sulle juba tõlkida kõike?
Yes. I'm from the Netherlands, from the International Child Abduction. We also work with international child abductions by a parent. And what we see most in our practice, which I also think here, is what we see mostly in our practice is because two parents are having a fight with each other and the child gets mixed in the middle. You could call that abuse. Some people define an international child abduction as abuse of the child because he is so in the middle of the conflict. And that is why sometimes we have to treat it like that as well in order to prevent the child from being in that conflict. And here you mostly see maybe one parent or someone outside of the family. And with a parental abduction, I think both parents can be responsible. So that's a difference maybe to the topics already discussed.
Thank you. Aitäh. Aldi, on teil mõtteid neid ettekandeid kuulates tekkis?
Ma räägin ka rohkem samast kui Elisabethist, et meie vaatame seda asja rohkem võib-olla lapseröövi seisukohalt, et ma lisaks Elisabethile kindlasti seda, et mõnevõrra, kui ma vaatan neid juhtumeid, mis on meile jõudnud ministeeriumisse ja mis on Eestile esitatud, siis tegelikult ma näen ka seost Kristiina tehtud ettekandega just selles osas, et tekib olukordasid, kus lisaks sellele, et laps on nii-öelda väärkohtlemise osas, siis tegelikkuses on tohutult palju neid olukordasid, kus need vanemad, kes omavahel kaklevad, unustavad selle lapse ära ja see lapsel tekibki see kiusamise moment, et ta ei saa toetust ühelt vanemalt, ta ei saa toetust teiselt vanemalt ja seda hullemini võib tekkida see olukord, kus laps ei teagi, kelle poole pöörduda või mida teha.
Aitäh. Simon.
I think there are many connections with bullying in child sexual exploitation, and I think sometimes it's just an extension of bullying that goes into exploitation of children in their later life, and the links to bullying are really well made in research that I've seen. But I think it's just to re-emphasize that the main indicator for child sexual exploitation is missing, and I'm guessing it's the same indicator for all of the areas that we're going to talk about. So it's really important that in Estonia that you work together to try and reduce and find children that go missing.
Thank you. Gerba.
Yeah, there are a lot of things that have gone through my mind today listening to all these professionals, and of course Simon's lecture was very raised a lot of questions, but then again we also in Iceland are dealing with the same things, and I was very happy that he mentioned that we really need to be focused on boys that are victims of sexual abuse and boys that are victims of also the internet lured and grooming process of the internet and sexual exploitations, like Simon was saying. We have a case like this in Iceland now, a guy who is really, he is very intelligent and he is a very good computer scientist, so he has been, he is also linked in other huge crimes like robbing a lot of money through the internet, and he has also been accused of sexually abusing 11 young boys at the age of like from 13 to 16. So very similar to many things that both Simon and the prosecutor that went away was talking about. And also what she was saying, and that's why it is very good to talk about bullying also here today, because in many of the cases that me and Ola meet every day, these are often victims of severe bullying also. There's a big connection because they are very vulnerable victims to sexual abuse after their self-esteem has been lowered so much through the bullying through many, many years. So there is a big connection. And we need to stay focused and stay on our toes regarding both of those aspects of abuse.
Ja kui mina nüüd mõtlen tagasi nendele kuuldud ettekannetele just nii-öelda ennetusvõimaluste vaatenurgast ja sellest, et te rõhutasite, et on erinevad klassifikatsioonid, mida me oleme täna siin kuulnud, teatud tüüpilised mustrid, siis tegelikult on olemas ju teatud kindlad ohumärgid. Et me peaksime olema neist lihtsalt igapäevases elus rohkem teadlikud. Inimesed, kes töötavad lastega, peaksid olema neist rohkem teadlikud, et nad oskaksid hakata kahtlustama. Ja peab olema üsna selgelt ka läbi mõeldud, eriti kui ma mõtlen nende selle peale, mis toimub koolides. Et mida teha siis, kui mul on kahtlus? Seadus ütleb, et meil on kohustus teatada. Kuidas ma seda teen? Et tehes palju praktilist koostööd õpetajatega, on seal hästi palju küsimusi ja kõhklusi, et see on kindlasti koht, kus meie saame veel asju paremaks teha, et ka see märkamisele järgneks reageerimine, et ei oleks nii, et ma näen, aga ma ei vaata.
Jah, ja kui on märgatud, siis peaks rääkima lapsega. Ja kuidas peaks rääkima lapsega? Mis on need esimesed, võib-olla kõige tähtsamad mõtted, mida te tahate, et ka siin olijad, lapsevanemad, spetsialistid, kes me kõik oleme, et meelde jätaksid? Elisabeth.
In the Netherlands we have an expression you shouldn't just hear, but you should also listen, and you should really take into account what the child is saying and what the child is not saying. In court procedures, in an international child abduction, the judge talks with the children, but they wear normal clothes, and they're in a separate room, and they're specially trained to speak with the children. And they never ask the question, where do you want to live, with your mom or with your dad? Because you cannot choose between your parents. What they ask is, what did you like in Estonia? Did you like playing there? How was the school? How was the football club? And now, how is the football club in the Netherlands? And from that, they try to realize indirectly how the child is feeling about that. And in the mediation process, which we do a lot in the Netherlands, in international cases, we try to come to a solution with both parents and mediators. There's a third mediator, like you did in Iceland, where one is doing the interview and the other is doing the treatment. We have the same practice in mediation. One mediator talks with the child and two other mediators talk with the parents. And only the information is shared which the child gives consent to. And a good example of what we have experienced, for example, we asked the child which kind of animal he compares his parents to. And we had one case in which there was a stepmother, and the parents were fighting and the mediation was going very rough. And they were asked to the child, what did you think of your stepmother? What kind of animal is she? And the child had said, she looks like a big whale. And parents were both laughing because also the father recognized his wife in the whale, I think. And the atmosphere changed in the mediation and the parents got together. So that small thing that a child said led to the fact that they got to talk. And that is for us highly valued in those kind of procedures.
Wonderful. Thank you. Aldi, mis teie arvate?
Ma nõustun täiesti sellega, mis eelkõneleja juba ütles ja ma kindlasti rõhutaks ka just seda, et last ei saa panna nii-öelda valima pooli, et mis on nüüd õige, mis on vale, vaid et lapse peab andmagi lihtsalt võimaluse rääkida, teda ära kuulata, teda mõista ja kindlasti teda toetada, et meil on olnud juhtumeid ja kindlasti ei saa vaadata puhtalt, et kõik nüüd oleneb ka lapse vanusest, et issand, et ta on nii noor, et ta ei tea mitte midagi. Et meil oli üks üsna keerukas lapseröövijuhtum, kus oli 5-lapseline pere ja kõige vanem lastest oli vaevu 10-aastane, ehk need kõik olid tegelikult üsna väiksed lapsed. Kohtus oli tõendamisel väga tõsine perevägivald ja kohtunik kohtus lastega koos siis ka niimoodi, et eraldatud ruumis ja nii nagu meil Eesti kohtutes käib. Ja oli ka sotsiaaltöötaja, mida ühelgi hetkel ei suunatud lapsi küsima, et kas sa tahad olla oma emaga, kas sa tahad olla oma isaga. Küsiti lihtsalt, et te nüüd tulite siia, et kuidas teile siin meeldib. Ja need, kellega ta siis vestles, olid seal 5, 6 ja 7-aastased lapsed. Ja kuidas need lapsed siis selgitasid, et ma saame mängida kellegi teisega. Me ei mängi ainult oma vahel ja millest see tuligi nagu välja see, et eelmises elukohas terve nende elu oli olnud 5-kesi, et nad tohtisid mängida 5-kesi, nad ei tohtinud välja käia õues ja kõik sellised väiksed asjad, mida need lapsed rõhutasid ja näitasid, et mis olid sellised asjad, mille peale võib-olla täiskasvanud poleks isegi tulnud, et küsida isegi nende käest, et kas teil on siin uued sõbrad või midagi, et taust oligi just see, et aga meil ei olnud enne üldse sõpru, kellega mängida ja kellega oma mõtteid jagada.
Aitäh, väga huvitav näide. Aitäh. Simon.
I think there's a few things I like to say about interviewing children is the first thing that I was told when I went into child protection 20 years ago is believe the unbelievable. These things happen and we must listen to children. And the second thing is that we mustn't just have anybody interviewing children. It's a really specialist area that we need to put a lot of training into to make sure that the right people are interviewing the right children. And in terms of the disclosure that a child is going to make, is that in criminal justice in the UK, we used to go and see the child when we wanted to go and see the child with the expectation that they would make the disclosure then. But actually we've now turned that around, is that we go and see the child when they want to see us. And I think that that's really, really important. And just the final point is on top of who should interview children is when. Those of you who've got children that are adolescents, 13, 14, 15, 16, have any of you ever tried to get any sense out of your children in the morning? Have you? Because it's impossible. So if you're interviewing adolescents, you should talk to adolescents in the afternoon. And the time that you interview children for as well is really critical, because if you think in education that a child's attention span is only 20 minutes, and yet you're expecting to sit down and interview a child in a strange room with strange people for over 2 hours, it's no surprise that you're not going to get a very good interview. So we say in the police service in the UK now is that the maximum time that we will interview any child is 30 minutes. Then you need to stop, have a break, and then maybe move on to another subject. So it's a real specialist area that needs a lot of attention and a lot of thought. We tend to think about planning interviews with our suspects without planning our interviews with our children. And they are the most important side of any investigation, is the interview with a child, because without it, you're lost. So it's really important that we increase the specialism and professionalism interviewing children.
Thank you. Thank you. Do you want to add?
Well, I agree with this, of course. Because we were talking about who should do the interview, should it be the police, should it be a psychologist? In my mind, it doesn't matter if the interviewer is a good interviewer. Should it be a man or a woman? It doesn't matter either. It just needs to be a very well-trained and a good interviewer. What matters also very much is not only the interviewer, but also the setting. And that's why it's like in Iceland, what we find is very promising is to do this in a in a household like we do it in. We find that the children, they just are excited to come in there. They ask us maybe, where's your room? Where are your children? They think they are just visiting somebody, and they feel at ease as soon as they see the house. Just walking to the house, it's not intimidating, not a huge building, just a small house just in a local area. And that is also something that people that are interviewing children and putting up nice interviews room should also think about. Where is this nicely interview room? It's also about the first appearance of the child. And also it's just, that's regarding the interview. What I thought also, because you were talking about what she said about it's so important to listen, because then instantly I remember the girl who I saw in treatment once. She was 17 years old, and she disclosed about sexual abuse that occurred to her when she was around 8, and she was abused by a neighbor, a teenage neighbor boy that took her to down. They lived in a block, and he took her downstairs where they kept all the bicycles and stuff, and he abused her there many times. And then he was talking about it in his peer group, that he was doing some stuff to her, and she was walking with her mom to the store once, and some of his friends were calling at the girl. She was walking with her mom to the store, and they were calling something about this. Are you this guy's boyfriend? I know you were kissing in the cellar and something like that. And her mom was like, why are they saying this? And she was like, nothing, because they were outside and they were coming to the store, and they were going to buy some food. And then they went home, and the girl went straight to her room, and her mother started to cook and stuff. And she was always waiting for her mom to come again and ask her again about this, why the boys had behaved in this way towards her, because then she would want to tell her about what has happened. But the mom, she just got caught up in her daily life and forgot about all this and never asked her again. So she disclosed 17 years old after many years. So listening and asking children is very crucial, one of the crucial points.
Thank you, aitäh. Kristiina, soovite lisada?
Ma just tahan tegelikult tänada oma kõrvalistujat, et ta tõi sisse ka selle märkamise ja kuulamise teema ka väljaspool õigussüsteemi. Ehk siis tegelikult kõik saab ju alguse sellest, nendest tähelepanelikest kaasinimestest, kes seal ümber on, õpetaja, teine vanem, naabrinaine. Ja et me oleme tegelikult piisavalt avatud silmade ja kõrvadega ja olla valmis kuulama. Teine asi on see, et kui me räägime kas või kiusamislugudest, siis nendest on lapsel väga raske rääkida. Ja siis on jällegi hästi oluline pidada silmas seda, nii nagu ka Simon ütles, et me anname selle aja lapsele, millal ta ise on valmis rääkima. Me võime istuda seal tükk aega, me näeme, et tal tahab see lugu sealt seest välja tulla, istume vaikides ja ta tuleb siis, kui ta on valmis tulema. Aga me ei tohi vahepeal ust kinni panna, me hoiame selle ukse kogu aeg lahti, et ma näen, et sul on mure, räägi siis, kui sa oled selleks valmis. Ma ei lähe lihtsalt suppi tegema, vaid ma hoian selle ukse lahti.
Suur tänu, kuldaväärt nõuanded. Head konverentsil osalejad, ma nüüd küll küsisin ise 2 küsimust järjest ära, sest et need olid mul kuidagi hinge peal, aga ma ju lubasin, et ma annan mikrofoni ka teile. Et mul on nüüd küll võimalus anda ainult 1 küsimuseks mikrofoni, aga ikkagi on soovijaid. Kui kohe ei ole, siis tegelikult on ka alanud kohvipaus. Ja te saate rääkida ehk ka esinejatega, tetate küsida küsimusi, te teate, millisest valdkonnast nad on ja millele nad võiksid vastata. Ootan teid tagasi kella 4-ks ja tuletan meelde, et kõrvaklapid andke enne ära. Aitäh! Ja aplaus meie panelistidele, sõbrad!